back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 401, Island Time. The episode begins with Ash, Brock, and Max waiting for a huge ferry that was supposed to take them from Slateport City, where they were currently, to Evergrande City, so Ash could participate in the Horn League, which he was very, very excited for. As for where May was at, she was currently doing some last-minute shopping around Slateport, killing time before the ferry, which had docked, was supposed to take off. Max was a bit concerned for May, as she'd been gone for quite a while, and Max didn't think that a person would spend that long on shopping. Brock clarified to Max, however, that when it came to girls and shopping, there was no such thing as time in the world, so it was only natural that May was almost going to be late for the boat's departure. However, suddenly, May excitedly came running to Brock, Max, and Ash, revealing that she had managed to win 4 tickets to Evergrande City. Specifically, 4 airline tickets to Evergrande City, so they didn't have to even ride the boat, they could go on plane, and Ash thought this was a great idea, because it would be a faster trip, which would give him a lot more time to practice in Evergrande City with his Pokemon before the conflict actually started. So, without further ado, Ash and the gang got on the plane, commenting how lucky they were to be on the plane in the first place, and also marveled about how they were the only ones on the plane, and May stated that this was such a lucky break that it was probably a sign she would eventually become a top coordinator. May and Brock were sitting together, while Ash and Max were sitting together, very much enjoying the luxuries of this plane. Just then, their air hostess, actually Jessie in disguise, came out and greeted Ash and the gang, making an announcement being that the flight was experiencing some difficulties, so they would have to make an emergency landing at Team Rocket headquarters and stay there until they could figure out the problem. Ash was confused at first, but he knew that he had been tricked by Team Rocket when Ash and the gang were all locked in their seats by restraints that Team Rocket had put in the plane, and Jessie revealed herself, taking off her stewardess disguise. And she also reveals that James and Meowth were the ones flying the plane, and they actually owned the plane, and had made a fake raffle for May to win. It was essentially only meant for May to participate, so that May would end up on their plane, and they could capture them. James then caught the already shocked Ash and gang off guard when he spoke over the plane's intercom and pressed a button to restrain Brock, Ash, Max, and May even more, which prevented them from moving in any way, shape, or form. Ash then told Pikachu to use Thunderbolt to try and break them out, but Pikachu couldn't do jack shit because he was then captured by Jessie inside of one of Team Rocket's electric-proof cages, so Pikachu couldn't even use Thunderbolt to escape his own cage, which was even shaped like a ball. Jessie then brags about how awesome this plane was, since Team Rocket had emptied any spare money that they had in their bank account to fully pay for it. And Jessie also revealed that she even sold James's bottle cap collection to afford the plane, which made James immensely angry, obviously, while Meow was angry about the fact that they had to not buy food and only live on wild berries so that they could afford this stupid-ass plane. And James was so mad about his bottle cap collection that he stood up to yell at Jessie, meaning he wasn't controlling the plane, and since Meowth was so dismayed by not getting the chance to eat any real food all for this plane, he couldn't pilot it either, so the plane started to fall to the ground. However, James and Meowth were quickly able to regain control of the plane, but right after this, the plane started to stutter and almost fall again, indicating that it was running out of fuel. So James asked Jessie how much fuel she even bought with all the money, leading Jessie to simply point at a single gas tank, which James knew was obviously not enough for the whole flight. So the airplane descended down at an extremely fast speed, tipping forward and getting below the clouds as everyone freaked out in fear, including Wobbuffet, who popped out of its Pokeball, and James scolded Jessie for not doing her job to be prepared with the correct amount of fuel. May was particularly scared, declaring that she knew she was going to die, but Ash tried to comfort her, telling her to have more faith that they would be okay. Soon enough, though, everyone else, aside from Ash, was in the exact same boat as May, being extremely scared that they were going to crash. Though, suddenly, the plane emerged from the clouds coming out of them, and James and Meowth spotted an island, and with Meowth's expert piloting skills, even though it was difficult for him, managed to land the aircraft on the island, with the help of James navigating him. Meowth really struggled, but he did manage to get the plane down, while momentarily feeling lucky that there was just a random-ass island in the middle of the sea. The landing ended up being so rough, though, that dust was kicked up on the ground, and Team Rocket was entirely knocked out. Ash and gang weren't, though, because they were in their capture restraints that Team Rocket had put them in. And thankfully, the crash actually managed to loosen them, so Ash and gang were able to break free from them and exit the plane, only to find that the island was, of course, deserted. Max suddenly noted this, however, as he pointed to what he believed was a Venonat behind a nearby bush, but Ash and gang were all immensely startled when they heard the Venonat start to talk, although they calmed down a little bit when the Venonat pops out from behind the bushes to reveal itself to actually be a man named Robin, who was extremely happy to see Ash and gang, believing that they had come in their plane to rescue him, and he asked if this was the case. Upon hearing this, Team Rocket, who had now woken up, come out of the plane and call out to Robin, saying that he was selfish for believing that he was the only one that could have needed rescuing, as Ash and the gang and Team Rocket needed rescuing too, since they crash-landed and were now stranded on the island. Robin realizes the truth, and he gets depressed, as he was really hoping that there would actually be someone to rescue him for once. Robin then explains that he had been stuck on the island for a long time and decided to tell Ash and the gang and Team Rocket his whole story while providing them with some food that he had collected, being some fruit, so that they would have something to replenish their energy while they listened. So Robin gave Ash and the gang Team Rocket the fruit and escorted them to a cave where he told his story, even though Team Rocket wasn't really listening because they were too busy eating. Anyways, this island was apparently called Whalmer Island, and Robin used to be an important salesman who was always sent around the world on business. However, during one trip while he was on a boat on his way to visit many different cities, a storm occurred that was very violent and caused very rough waves. And sure enough, the ship that Robin was on sunk into the water, but not before all of the other salesmen that he was with on the ship managed to evacuate, but he was knocked overboard. And since everyone else had already evacuated, no one had seen him fall, and they just thought that he must have fucking just died, and they didn't bother coming back for him. Robin continued, as he stated that he really thought he was dead too, but when he got deep enough in the water, he was rescued by none other than a whalmer, which took him to the surface, and then, after saving him from drowning, brought him to this island, known as Whalmer Island. Also explaining that he was the one who named the island Whalmer Island, in honor of the whalmer who saved him, and also just because he obviously thought that the island had to have been important to Whalmer in some way, if it brought him to it. Action again commented that Robin living alone had to be hard for him, but Robin said he tried not to pay much attention to being alone, even though he did want to get rescued, because it wasn't the worst thing in the world, because he had many pieces of fruit and many berries to eat, as well as a Pokemon to keep him company, being none other than the whalmer who constantly visited him on the island. And sure enough, right after this, the whalmer suddenly surfaced, popping out of the water, the same one who rescued Robin, which Robin confirmed when Ash asked him if this was the case, and he added that it would always come and visit him, like literally always, like at least once a day it seemed like. He wasn't exaggerating. While Team Rocket was still absolutely chowing down on fruit, Ash and the gang were amazed by the whalmer, with Ash using his Pokédex on it to learn more about it. Just then, Team Rocket finally finished their meal of fruit, and now that they were full, they prepared to leave the island, thinking that they could just swim their way to safety now that they had energy from food. So, they did some stretching to prepare themselves, with Meowth leading the stretching session, although Robin tried to warn Team Rocket that they shouldn't try swimming, because he knew better, but Team Rocket just ignored him and swam out into the ocean. But the further they got, they eventually got caught in a strong whirlpool, and got fully sucked into the whirlpool. They tried their best to break free and get to shore, but they couldn't. Fortunately for them, though, they were rescued by none other than the whalmer, who took them back to the shore. Once Team Rocket had recovered from almost drowning, Robin admitted that the island was surrounded by whirlpools, and he explains that he found this out after trying to escape the island multiple times with the help of Whalmer, but each time he failed. Going into detail about a time he tried to escape the island on a makeshift raft he had made out of some trees on the island, which was pulled by the Whalmer, but his raft was quickly destroyed by the whirlpools in seconds. And he adds that he had tried multiple times to escape with Whalmer, but every time the whirlpool just fucked him over, and declared that Ash and the gang and Team Rocket may have to stay with him on this island forever because there was no way off. Team Rocket was very annoyed that nothing about the bad whirlpools or currents was said earlier, and they were also just annoyed at the fact that they could be stuck on a goddamn island for their entire life, and they all screamed independently, and Ash and the gang were shocked as well. Although Robin pointed out that they encountered many strong winds when coming to the island. He could see their plane, so they should have expected that there'd be bad currents and bad whirlpools if there were strong winds. This didn't comfort anyone at all, though, as May and Max panicked about the fact that since their plane crashed in the strong winds, no other planes or ships would be able to reach the island either and save them, so they would be stuck for their entire lives, while Team Rocket continued to scream independently, knowing that they weren't fit to live life in the uncivilized wild. Ash was extremely mad himself, since he wouldn't be able to participate in the Holy League if he was stuck on the island for the rest of his life. Although, thankfully for everyone, Brock had an idea, suggesting that they could use the plane to escape and pass through the whirlpools, suggesting that they transform the plane using all its parts into a boat. Robin was skeptical, reminding Brock that his raft didn't work, but Brock reminded Robin that a fucking boat made of steel out of the plane's parts would be way better than the raft. So Robin and Ash and the gang and Team Rocket liked this idea, but they wondered how they were going to convert the plane into a boat. So Brock suggested that they could use their Pokemon essentially as builders with all their attacks. Ash, May, Robin, Max, Jesse, James, and Meowth were all a bit skeptical that Ash and the gang's Pokemon could be used to build the boat, but they had no other choice, and they soon came to the conclusion that the attacks might actually be useful. Although, there was one problem. They didn't know how to get fuel for the boat, although Robin then suggested that they could use the trees as fuel, as well as other resources on the island, so long as they had a Pokemon that could convert those resources into heat and energy. With that, everyone worked together to build the ship immediately, with Ash and the gang sending out all their Pokemon. Ash, of course, sent forth Pikachu, while sending out Grovyle, Swallow, Torkoal, Corphish, and Glalie. Brock sent out Fortress, Mudkip, and Ludicolo, and May sent out Bulbasaur, Combuskin, Beautyfly, Skitty, and Munchlax. Combuskin heated up sheets of metal so that Corphish could easily reshape them with its claws, while Mudkip and Glalie cooled the metal down, using Water Gun and Ice Beam, with Combuskin and Torkoal as well, using Flamethrower to heat up the metal. Pikachu was also helping Corfish reshaped the metal by using its thunderbolt, while Beautyfly and Swallow were flying above the trees looking for coconuts, while Grovile was cutting up coconuts that they collected to make it easier for Fortress to crush the coconuts and extract the juices and put them in a big barrel that happened to be on the plane, which were going to be used as extra fuel. Yeah, apparently they were using fucking coconut juice as well as burned down tree wood for fuel. How are they getting the tree wood, you may ask? Well, that was Team Rocket's job, including James's Chimecho. In addition to all the other Pokemon who weren't doing anything else, aside from Skitty, who was just walking around really doing nothing at all. All it did was find some Blossom, Sunkern, and Skiploom dancing. Anyways, as for what Team Rocket were doing, they were currently trying to collect tree wood as well as some vegetables. With James enjoying the work and exercise, as well as fresh air that all this entailed, but Jessie and Meowth were not as happy as James by any means, as they hated the idea of working alongside Ash and the gang. James simply smiled at his Chimecho while explaining to Meowth and Jessie that they really had no choice to work with Ash and the gang because they had no other way to get off the island. But just then, Meowth came up with a plan that would allow Team Rocket to get off the island while still fulfilling their original plan to capture Ash's Pikachu. And also without taking Ash and the gang and Robin with them, explaining that once the boat was fully ready to go, thanks to Ash and the gang's efforts, they could simply just distract Ash and the gang by stealing all of their Pokemon, including Pikachu, and then sail away on the boat after going inside, leaving Ash and the gang and Robin behind with no way to follow after them. Jessie and James cheered as they loved this idea, and suggested that once they had taken off in the boat, then they immediately sail right back to Team Rocket HQ so that they could get promotions straight away for stealing all the Pokemon. And Meowth agreed as they all cheered, with Wobbuffet coming out of its Pokeball to cheer as well. Jessie and James also decided, along with Meowth, that they were going to act as friendly as they could around Ash and the gang and Robin so that they didn't suspect their imminent betrayal. Meanwhile, by evening, all of Ash and the gang's Pokemon, as well as Ash and the gang and Robin, were now back in the cave, relaxing since they had finished the hard job of constructing the boat. With everyone excited that they would be leaving the island tomorrow, and Team Rocket had returned to the cave as well, acting excited about this as well, while Ash and the gang decided to celebrate their incoming escape by having a dinner full of Brock's custom-made Pokemon food for all of Ash and the gang's Pokemon, as well as a stew that Brock was cooking, and some spare fruit and vegetables. While everyone ate, Ash and the gang thanked the Pokemon for all their help, although May soon tried to recall Munchlax, as she feared that it may eat all the other Pokemon's food, as well as the coconuts needed for the coconut oil fuel, and coconut juice fuel. Sure enough, as soon as Munchlax had finished its own food, it immediately went to eat everyone else's. Luckily though, Max still had the Pokeblock case with May's custom Pokeblocks that Munchlax really liked in it, so Max quickly threw the Pokeblock at Munchlax, and Munchlax caught it in its mouth just before it could eat anything else, and this made it feel instantly satisfied and no longer hungry, as Munchlax fell asleep. Much to Max's both relief and annoyance, because Munchlax was either really annoying while awake or sleeping. But regardless, Max just hoped that he didn't run out of May's Pokeblocks before they got off the island, where he could eventually ask May to make more, since if they ran out, then Munchlax could eat all their food, and that wouldn't be very good. Brock and Robin, however, comforted Max, stating that he wouldn't have to worry about running out of food on this island. Not just because there was a huge supply of fruit and shit, but also they would be off tomorrow morning, because the boat had been completed. They just didn't want to sail off at night. Ash and the gang and their Pokemon and Robin were just getting ready to go to bed, as Team Rocket was still eating and acting very, very, very happy and more friendly towards them than usual, wishing them good night and all that shit, which made May and Max suspicious that something may be going on with Team Rocket, as May whispered her assumption to Max, and Max agreed, although they couldn't exactly pinpoint what Team Rocket was up to, as it just looked like they were fat fucks enjoying a good meal. But May and Max put their concerns aside for a little bit and went to sleep, as did everyone else, who treated Team Rocket like allies and weren't suspicious of them whatsoever. And they all woke up in the cave the next morning, as the sun shined brightly inside of the cave. Ash, as well as Pikachu, were the first two to wake up, and Ash immediately saw that Robin appeared to be missing, so he woke up everyone else and informed them of this. Since Ash and the gang were so concerned with Robin being missing, they didn't even realize the fact that Team Rocket was missing as well, and Ash and the gang immediately ran outside the cave, looking on the island, trying to find Robin. And they didn't have to look far, as they saw that he didn't go missing, he just woke up before them, and was currently by the completed boat, hanging out with Wailmer, admiring the sunrise with it, as well as saying his final goodbye to it, explaining that he was finally leaving the island after all this time, because he needed to go home. When Ash and the gang found Robin, they listened intently to his talking to Wailmer, as he thanked it for bringing him to the island, because he really enjoyed his time there, even though he did want to get back home, saying that he worked super hard as a salesman, and him being on the island allowed him to take a break from that hard lifestyle for a bit. Basically, life on the island changed him and made him more relaxed, and stated that he was a robotic-style, monotonous worker, but after he came to the island, due to developing a friendship with Wailmer and living on the island for a long time, he began to understand the real meaning of life and making connections and having fun. Robin then ended his conversation with Wailmer, ending that he owed his life to it in more ways than one, and was very glad for the bond that they shared. Max, hearing how much of a bond that Wailmer and Robin had, suggested that Robin should take Wailmer back with him into town, but as Robert thought it over for a bit, he refused to take Wailmer with him, stating that Wailmer wouldn't enjoy life in a big, filthy city, as opposed to a nice, clean, natural environment like the ocean. Just then, Ash and the gang and Robin were startled as a metal extendable claw arm shot out and grabbed Pikachu, pulling him towards the boat that was behind Ash and the gang and Robin. So they turned around to see none other than Team Rocket. with James the one who had extended the arm. Without further ado, Team Rocket immediately got inside the boat and then put Pikachu inside an electric-proof cage, doing their motto as they began to go away on the boat. Ash and the gang and Robin were immensely shocked to see that Team Rocket had betrayed them, with Brock yelling at Team Rocket that it wasn't time to go away yet, and told them to wait up for them, but Team Rocket simply ignored them and continued going away on the boat. Pikachu then used Thunderbolt in an attempt to break out of the cage, but of course the cage was electric-proof. Ash and the gang and Robin tried their best to give chase to the boat while not diving into the water themselves, but unfortunately the boat started going extra fast because Meowth started up the engine. Although Brock then warned Team Rocket that the ship wasn't ready to go yet, the engine wasn't fully suited, and it wasn't fueled yet either. Sure enough, right as Team Rocket approached the whirlpool, they ran out of fuel on the boat, as it was nowhere near fueled up yet. And as a result, Team Rocket was dragged into the whirlpool. Team Rocket started to panic as the whirlpool entirely destroyed the still fragile boat, while Meowth simply just continued to observe the empty fuel gauge, and Team Rocket and Pikachu were sent flying away out of the remains of the boat. In an effort to save Pikachu, not Team Rocket, Ash hopped on Whalmer and rode Whalmer to retrieve Pikachu from the water, and he did so while Team Rocket landed inside the water, creating a huge wave as Ash and Whalmer and Pikachu returned to the shore, and Ash hugged Pikachu, happy to have him back. Just then, though, Team Rocket emerged from the water, standing on a little rock in the middle of the water, and Max instantly yelled at Team Rocket for destroying their only means of escape, the boat. But Team Rocket blamed Ash and the gang entirely for the destruction of the boat, saying that they and the Pokemon didn't make it strong enough, even though they should have fucking helped. Regardless, Team Rocket were angry as hell at Ash and the gang, as Jessie sent out her Seviper, and James sent out his Cacnea, who hugged him first, prickling him as usual. And Jessie and James immediately ordered Seviper and Cacnea to attack Ash and the gang to get revenge on them, with Seviper using Bite and Cacnea using Pin Missile. While Whalmer stops the attacks in their tracks by using a water gun, also sending Seviper and Cacnea flying back onto the rock that Team Rocket was on, knocking them down. This just made Team Rocket angrier, as they ordered Seviper and Cacnea to attack with Bite and Pin Missile again, but before Seviper and Cacnea could get back up, Ash and Pikachu used Thunderbolt on Team Rocket to send them back into the water, almost drowning them, leading Team Rocket to flail around in the water, panicking, until Meowth spotted Whalmer again and declared that they could use Whalmer to save themselves from drowning as a floaty, and then also use it as transport to help them get away. So Team Rocket climbed on Whalmer and ordered it to help them escape immediately, although Robin ordered Team Rocket to get off of Whalmer immediately, since Whalmer couldn't handle that much weight. I mean, it had to deal with Jessie, James, Meowth, Wobbuffet, Chimecho, Cacnea, and Seviper on it. Team Rocket simply laughed, saying that they would use Whalmer to help them get past the whirlpools, but just then, Whalmer started to glow, much to the surprise of Ash and the gang, Robin, and Team Rocket, as Ash and the gang and Robin looked on in excitement, and Team Rocket looked on in excitement as well, as Whalmer evolved into Wailord. Team Rocket were excited, because they were confident that Wailord could carry them to safety, since it could handle much more weight than Whalmer could, and started to admire Wailord, shocked by how big it was, while Ash scanned Wailord with his Pokédex. But unfortunately for Team Rocket, Wailord hated Team Rocket for putting excess weight on it before, and decided to send Team Rocket blasting off by using a water spout, glowing in the process as it unleashed it super powerfully. Ash and the gang were amazed by Wailord's power, so they pleaded Wailord to take them all past the whirlpools and back to civilization, with Robin asking this as well, and Wailord obliged, carrying the 5 of them on its back, although even with Wailord's size, it was struggling against the strong current of the whirlpools. When Robin shouted some words of encouragement to Wailord, though, Wailord became more determined to help out its friends, slamming its tail in the water and breaking free from the whirlpools. However, this created a huge wave, though, which was about to come right over Ash and the gang, but Wailord was able to counter the huge wave and destroy it with a water pulse, and sped up through the remainder of the whirlpools until it made it out, leaving Wailord very pleased with itself, and Ash and the gang and Robin very pleased with Wailord. And after a little while of being out in the regular open sea, Ash and the gang and Robin came across a passing ship that luckily had a captain and a sailor on deck. So when Ash and the gang and Robin approached the ship on Wailord and waved to the captain and the sailor, they spotted them and gladly let them come aboard the ship, stopping the ship in its tracks so they had the opportunity to get on board easily. Ash and the gang then thanked the captain and sailor, along with several other sailors who had come out on deck as well. And the captain and sailors assured Ash and the gang and Robin that it was no problem, though they were a bit surprised to find them all on a Wailord in the middle of nowhere. And speaking of the Wailord, Ash and the gang and Robin then thanked Wailord for all of its assistance, and Robin went to say goodbye to Wailord, telling it that it was now going to go to the city. But at the last second, he changed his mind, jumping on Wailord, shocking Ash and the gang. But Robin explained that he was going to go back to Whalmer Island with Wailord, and he actually found out that he preferred life on Whalmer Island, since it allowed him to avoid the city lifestyle and his salesman lifestyle that he figured out that he hated, and he felt as though living on the island had actually allowed him to find what he really liked in life, which was being with nature. So assuring Ash and the gang that the island had everything he needed. Ash and the gang were shocked by Robin's decision, but they understood once they saw his bond with Wailord, and Max was especially glad that Robin was staying with the Pokemon he had bonded with. The episode then ends with Robin going away on his Wailord back to Whalmer Island, while Ash and the gang say goodbye to him and Wailord and continue on their journey, now on the boat, straight towards Evergrande City, so Ash could finally participate in the Hoenn League. Yeah guys, that's right, the Hoenn League was finally going to start next episode. No way.